Queries and Conundrums tomorrow, we want to know whether clear lemonade really does have lemon in it, and why do cats rub up against your legs? Are they just trying to be friendly, or do they have some ulterior motive? That's Queries and Conundrums between 9 and 10 tomorrow. I'm Neil Pringle, and I'll see you on the radio between 6 and 10 for Lancashire Today. Right now, it's 10 o'clock.
Lancashire's favourite station on 95.5, 103.9 and 104.5 FM. BBC.
And that's it. Out the way for another day, Lancashire Today. I'm Neil Pringle, presenter of The Breakfast Show, and this is BBC Radio Lancashire. Let me tell you a bit about Radio Lancashire. We do news, weather, information, talk, conversation, sport, and talking points, and we do it for all of Lancashire. We're actually based here in Blackburn, but we do serve the entire county, and in fact we have around about 250,000 listeners from as far north as Lancaster, out to the east to Burnley, over to Blackpool and down to Chorley, so we go everywhere. In a moment, I'm going to take you upstairs to the guts of the operation. You'll see roughly what Radio Lancashire is. If we were a business, I suppose you'd describe us as a £2 million business, and we employ about 40 people. So it's quite a sophisticated operation. We'll go upstairs in a second. Also, we'll meet the boss. I'm just going to pop into reception to pick up some messages. So follow me, and we'll meet Yvonne. Here we are. Come on through. This is sort of front of house. This is Yvonne. Yvonne's our receptionist. She also takes calls and runs the switchboard on the station. Excuse me, do I have any messages?
Yes, actually, you do, Neil. If you could phone Mrs. Green, it's about the queries and conundrums.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, okay, let's go upstairs and we'll have a look around the newsroom. We do have stairs here, but after a 4-hour stint, I think I'm going to take the lift. I'll see you up there. Here we are. This is the big newsroom. It's a sort of combined newsroom production area, and I suppose the reason for that is because there's journalism in programmes just like there is in bulletins, so we're all really in the same ship. If you look over there, that far end is where we get the daytime sequence programmes put together. Right in the far corner, the weekend programmes. Sport occupy the desks there, and down here is where they're actually putting together some of the bulletins. Kay Bellwood now. Kay helps present the Lancashire Today breakfast programme with me. She also reads the bulletins through the rest of the morning. Hi. Did you get that bulletin piece on the council building?
Yep, got that one. It's in the bulletin.
See you later. Now, before we meet some more of the workers, let's meet the boss, Chris Fanchake. Posh office, as you see. Chris, hi.
Morning.
Now then, what we really want to know is Radio Lancashire. What's it about then?
Well, these days, Neil, it's about being different. You'll hear the word distinctive bandied around a lot in BBC circles nowadays, and the reason for that is that there's so much more choice on the radio dial these days. Radio Lancashire used to be one of 6 stations serving this county. It's now, with the arrival of the newcomers, the new commercial music stations, the national stations, it's now one of 12 radio stations serving Lancashire. So,
lots of competition then?
Lots of competition, and it means that if we're going to continue to justify the licence payers' money which it takes to run this place, we've got to provide something which the commercial boys aren't going to do. And what that means, and the kind of service which is also what local radio listeners have come to value from us over the years, is the kind of news, information, sport, conversation, the talk kind of output, which means that 80% of what we do is now news or talk.
So we're distinctive?
We're distinctive, we're different. We're trying to really be noticed on the dial.
But does being different mean that we have to occupy the ground that no one else wants, so we're not popular?
Well, there must be a market for what we do, because 250,000 Lancastrians listen to us every week. But it's actually rather expensive to do. It's rather labour intensive to provide the news talk output that we do. It's the kind of thing that a public service broadcaster can do, which a commercial operator at the mercy of the market might not necessarily be able to squeeze a profit out of.
Now, how does BBC Radio Lancashire fit into the wider BBC then, the sort of things that are happening there?
Well, the most important thing is that we're a radio station in our own right, but we're very important as a news gatherer for the rest of the BBC. We are the eyes and ears of BBC News in Great Britain, and that gets demonstrated on big stories like Weimar Prison and Leyland Daft. And also, as far as fitting in is concerned, it means that what's going on in Radio Lancashire about us focusing on the kind of output we do is happening right across the BBC. This is the document called Extending Choice, and it's the BBC's blueprint for its own future. And it says in here what local radio is for. It says BBC local radio should be all speech at key times. It should match the standards of BBC journalism 7 days a week, and it should be a focal point for community debate. So that is a blueprint not only for Radio Lancashire, but it specifies the kind of radio and television programmes that the BBC is doing right across the board. So we're part of a bigger picture.
Right. Well, that's the theory. Let's see how it's done in practice. We have some of our 40-odd staff out there beavering away. The first guy we're going to speak to is Chris Ryder, who's looking after the news today. Just give us an idea of where you sit in the sort of the information gathering process of the newsroom.
Well, my job is to coordinate what everyone is doing, the district producers in Burnley and Lancaster, Preston and Blackpool, and also to oversee what's happening with the news bulletins which are going on over there, and also the news hours that we do at lunchtime and tea time, to have an overall view of what everyone is doing, what the news output is, and what's going into all those programmes. You've got to try and keep an eye on everything.
You know, what people always say to me is, where do you get all those ideas for stories from? Where do the ideas come from?
Well, some people actually phone into newsrooms, people tell you about things, you build up contacts and are able to ring those people up, and through years of building up a relationship with people. And also information comes through a variety of sources, from people in London, from the computer we have here that we're tapped into. We can get news stories there, so it's just a whole range of ideas that come in. The main problem often is to sort out what you want to do and list the priorities that you can do, because often you can't cover everything.
Right, okay. And what are we looking at today? Anything particular?
Well, there's a few quite reasonable stories today. Rod Crocker, who is in Burnley, our producer in Burnley, did a court case involving some juveniles where they allegedly threw a big concrete slab onto a train. It created a lot of concern at the time, and that case is going to end today. We're keeping an eye on at County Hall because there's an important budget meeting going on there. That's the people who actually decide where all the council tax money goes and how to spend our money. So that's quite an important meeting. David Bailey's over in Blackpool keeping an eye on the highest tide of the century, which is going to take place later today, and so he's keeping an eye on that. So as you can see, a sort of a cross range of stories.
Okay, right. Now, let me just show you what's behind Chris. Now, this is the computer, the news computer, which basically gives us access not only to the whole of the BBC in the Northwest, but also to news stories which are happening across the world. And if you follow me over there, I'll show you how it works. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Neil.
Right, here we are. Let's get stuck in. Now, first of all, you've got to log into the computer, so I'm going to put in my name and my code word, and hopefully that should connect us up. Now, this does all sorts of different things. It serves many different uses, the computer. It's just running through its front page screens, and now it's given me a load of options of different places to go to in the news computer. Now, the first thing we could do is to go into, say, what Manchester are doing. So I can go into the television bulletins, into their breakfast bulletins, their early breakfast bulletin, and their first story, and have a look at what the presenter was saying in that story. So, for example, we can share the sort of information that we gather in the Northwest. We can also use this for Radio Lancashire's programmes. We get out of the television, down into Lancs. Now, Lancs today is the programme which I've just finished presenting, into the running order. Oops. There we are. And that gives you the running order of the programme that we actually did today. So it's basically a writing board for the various programmes across the Northwest. I can also use it as my own personal computer. I can actually go into my own notes here. I can send messages to other people, write mail, so it's a sort of electronic mail system. And it's also an incoming information source. I can actually go to the latest news which is coming in from across the world, and this is basically things from Press Association, from Reuters. And here's the latest thing, the draw for the international stage of the Anglo-Italian Cup. Hold the next bulletin, Guy. Right, well, let's just log out. Sport, of course, seeing we've come to it, we might as well have a chat with the lads over here, because, of course, sport is very important to us here in Lancashire. We've got football, Blackburn Rovers, of course, plus all the other teams as well. We've got rugby, we've got cricket. It's a very important subject to our audience. We spend a lot of time on air talking about it. Let's meet the guys who put it together. Now, Guy Havard is our sports producer, and he's over here. Guy, I just mentioned that Lancashire has all sorts of sports. That must make your job pretty envious, really, isn't it?
Yes, it's a very busy job. During the summer, when people say, oh, it must be quiet during the summer because there's no football, in fact, we're up to our neck in cricket. Everyone will know the local cricket leagues where some of the world's greatest players play. There's also Lancashire Cricket Club, who we cover in depth, and we have a reporter going home and away to all the games. We've got obviously a lot of rugby union sides, and on the footballing point of view, we've obviously been boosted by Blackburn Rovers' marvellous rise up the Football League in recent years.
But I mean, there are some football clubs which aren't easy to cover. Tell us about some of the difficulties you have in dealing with clubs who perhaps want to get on with the business of playing football.
Yes, it's not as easy as it thinks. People probably think we just turn up and get all the team information and then go on the radio and give it all out. But often you do have to struggle, and you have to bash your old friend the phone quite often and ring, and the manager's not available, the manager's on the line, and you can often ring like 10, 15 times just to find out how so-and-so with his groin strain.
And how much do you rely on the BBC Sports Department in London?
Not a great deal, actually. I thought when I first came here that we would be quite dependent on it, but it really just sort of supplements what we do. Basically, it's a local service, but we're able to do a lot of our own national stuff as well. We've done interviews with national people, and we also cover the big events. I mean, like even, say, the Ryder Cup was going on, it might be going on in America, but we would preview that with local celebrities, local golfers, and that way we'd cover a national story, but on a local basis.
And with 4 hours every night and Saturday and Sunday afternoons, you've got a lot of work to get through here, haven't you?
Yes, I know. Are you going to leave me now?
We'll let you get on with it. There we are, Guy Havard, Overworked Sports Department. Right, we're going to meet one of the people now who works on the Auntie People's programme. Now, Harriet Roberts is at this moment setting up one of the pieces which is going to go in tomorrow's programme. So, we'll see what she's on.
What they're doing is they're doing some sort of courses. And,
somebody to see you.
Can you just hold on a sec? Hi.
Harriet, do you want to just finish off with that? We'll be with you in a second. Now, Harriet is one of the production members of the team. There's quite a few members in Andy's team. He has a senior producer, 2 researchers, and an RPA on the programme as well. An RPA is someone who helps make it happen in the studio. We'll see more of that downstairs in a second. She is at this moment confirming the guest. A successful fix?
Yeah, 10:30 tomorrow. We're going tree hugging.
Now look, presumably what happens is that you come up with an idea that you want to follow on the programme. How do you turn that idea into a bit of radio?
Actually, it's surprisingly easy. You can read an article like this about tree hugging, and the next thing you know, you're speaking to the Centre of Peace and Harmony in Gloucester, and you're talking to Rod Nicholson on the programme tomorrow and having a go at tree hugging yourself.
It must be an interesting job. You must learn an awful lot about the world as well doing this job, don't you?
You learn lots of little things about lots and lots of subjects, but you're not an expert on anything at all. You're not very good at quiz nights.
And is tomorrow looking all right?
Tomorrow, surprisingly good, Neil. Look, this is the chart for the whole week. Is 12 pieces a day, and we're with one gap to fill for tomorrow. But next week's not looking so good, I'm afraid.
I'll let you get onto that. Pick up that phone. Start dialing.
Thank you.
Right, come on. It's just coming up to bulletin time, so I want to introduce you to Kay Bellwood. We met Kay just a little bit earlier on. Kay is going to be doing the news in just a few seconds' time. Kay! Come and tell us about the news. She was just about to go in there. Before you go into the news cubicle, just tell us roughly what's going to happen in the next few minutes.
The next few minutes we're going to have our news bulletin.
Right.
And I've got my actuality here, I've got my scripts there, I've got my watch here, and the second hand is ticking away, so I'm going to go through. Do you want to come through?
Is this tagging salary?
make money.
Right, what I'm doing here is I've got about 40 seconds before we have to go on air. So I've got to re-cue the carts and check the levels are okay. You can hear that.
The 4 people were arrested at
The incident happened at...
Completely vital to do that, because if you don't, you find that the cart starts and there's nothing there. Or it starts and it's very, very low level and you have to quietly try and edge it up and hope the presenter doesn't notice, because they usually shout up at you and ask you what's just gone wrong with that effing cart. And I also let the producer know that I'm here, so bear with me 1 second. Hi, it's Kay upstairs, I'm ready for the news. Fabulous, and then all I have to do is wait for my jingle to fire. It's 2 o'clock, I'm Kay Bellwood. Britain's prison governors have told the Home Secretary, Michael Howard, that urgent measures are needed to tackle the impending crisis of overcrowding in jails. They want an amnesty for those serving short sentences and those nearly ready for release. The chairman of the Governors Association, Brendan O'Friel, says they have no desire to interfere in the judicial process.
Prison governors are very sympathetic to the nation.
I've got 25 seconds of actuality. I've got everything ready that I need. They're all standing in the carts, and I know I'm going to education next. These are stories we've been running this morning. This we had in the breakfast programme and it's been reduced to copy now. And then we're coming up into a drug story which has come from GMR in Manchester. I've just nicked it straight from them. It just happens that it's got a Preston woman appearing in court, so it's a nice local one as well. The Education Secretary, John Patton, has given a warning that a big pay rise for teachers will put thousands of jobs at risk. The National Union of Teachers has challenged government moves to hold down public sector pay by calling for an 8% rise and £1,000 for all teachers. It says this is needed to recruit new teachers. But Mr Patton said young people were queuing up to join the profession and a big pay rise would only do damage. A 60-year-old Preston woman is appearing in court today charged with illegally importing drugs. The woman and 3 others who come from Oldham were arrested after £500,000 worth of heroin was discovered in 2 suitcases at Manchester Airport. Rob Norris has more.
4 people were arrested at Manchester Airport together with 8 other people who were passengers and their friends who were waiting in the arrivals hall.
Right, a bit of national stuff now, which has come up on the Rip and Read from London. This is a man from Nottinghamshire who's been supplying drugs to 2 children aged 3 and 4. Nice drug story to follow on to our one. So that's kind of vaguely links in. And then we're going into a petrol station raid. I've got a voice from our Blackpool reporter. We're running fairly close to time, actually. So I've also subbed this down so I can read it as copy if I need to.
Depending on the purity, it would have a street value of up to £500,000.
A man from Nottinghamshire has appeared before magistrates in Mansfield charged with supplying drugs to 2 children aged 3 and 4. The 35-year-old man is accused of giving the children amphetamines and heroin-based drugs. He is also charged with causing grievous bodily harm to one of the children. He was remanded in custody until the end of the month. 2 men have robbed a petrol filling station on the Fylde after smashing their way in and threatening the woman with a hammer. David Bailey has this report.
The incident happened at 4 o'clock this morning at the Elf service station at Clifton on the main Preston to Blackburn road. 2 men smashed their way in through a glass door with a hammer. The 19-year-old female cashier locked herself in another room, but the raiders then broke into that.
Something about to happen when I came in, but
she wasn't
come through yet.
The pair stole £50 from the till
Laura
and some
Davis
cigarettes
is
before
undergoing
escaping.
another operation.
Both were wearing plastic carrier bags over their heads with eye holes cut out. One was 5'5" with dark hair and wearing jeans and a check shirt, while the other was slightly taller and wearing jeans and a loose-fitting top. Police are appealing for any witnesses.
The 2 Scots lawyers who've been to North Africa to see the men accused of the Lockerbie jumbo jet bombing in 1988 have issued a statement about their trip. Solicitor advocate Alistair Duff and QC Lord Macaulay travelled to the Libyan capital Tripoli at the end of last week. They've just returned home. Finally, the weather. A cool, cloudy day with occasional rain is expected. The rain, for the most part, will be light, but there is the chance of a few heavier outbreaks over the Pennines. The top temperature, 13 Celsius. That's 55 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the news and weather for Lancashire. The next news is at 3. And there we go. cue those. And now, back to prepare the next news. Lines, here I come.
Isn't she great? Now, walk this way. That's our news operation at Radio Lancashire, but of course, you must forget that we're part of the BBC news gathering operation. This may not look much, but this is what we call the NCA Studio. It's not owned by Radio Lancashire at all, it's owned by network. In other words, Radio 2, 3, 4 and 1. If they want to put someone into this studio to take part in their own programmes, they can do so. And this box will connect them to London. It also means that when there's a big national story which is happening here in Lancashire, we are the BBC's eyes and ears here in Lancashire. We've got to supply the BBC centrally with stories, updates, actuality, voices, so that they can put those into the national news. So, it's one big BBC. Right, we've seen some of the smaller studios. Let's get back downstairs to the big stuff. Right, there are 3 studios, a couple which are off the air and one which is always used on the air. We're going to have a look at one of the ones off the air. Come on through. Someone's doing something in here at the moment. It's Jane. Hi. Jane.
Hello.
Do you mind if I just show a few people around?
Not at all.
Now, what are you doing, by the way? Right, okay. Okay, now, if you have a look at the equipment in here, you'll see that it might look a little complicated. Actually, it's no more complicated than driving a car, and I always say to people, whenever you step into a car for the first time, it looks complicated, but it soon becomes sort of second nature, and it's much the same with this sort of stuff. Just having a look at it, it's sort of the thing we use to put things on the air. We have a couple of record players over here, a couple of CD players. Those go onto the left-hand side of the desk. The tape recorders and the cart machines, which play our jingles and little inserts, that goes on the right-hand side of the desk. And in the middle of the desk is basically the microphones, so they can hear us. Over here we have our jingles. These are the things which identify our station, and I'll just put one in so you can have a listen. You see, it's us. So it's quite straightforward, isn't it?
Yes, very easy.
So this is one. Next door in the other one over there, that's Emma. Emma at the moment is putting together some of our weekend programmes. And I'm going to take you through to the central studio, which is known in the trade as Studio 1. Now this studio really comes into its own when we do things like elections and sports programmes, because this is the big discussion studio. As you can see, there's a central table here, and if we need to do big scale discussions, this is where we actually do it from. On a Saturday and a Sunday, the sports programmes also come from this studio, and what happens is the presenter will actually sit here, and someone through the studio where Jane is will actually sort of drive the programme for us. So, Studio 1, and we have cubicles 1A and 1B. Such terminology. Now, there is one room at Radio Lancashire which I know nothing about. It is the apparatus room. It is so complicated. There are only about 3 people in the radio station knows what works in there. One of whom is Bernard Shields, who is our chief engineer, who should be here he is, just coming in. The apparatus room. Are you going to take us in?
Come on in. Come on in.
Well, there you are, as you can see. Totally incomprehensible to the likes of you and me, but Bernard, in a nutshell, what goes on in here?
This is the technical heart of the station. All the circuits in and out.
Circuits?
Yes, we have landlines to our transmitting sites, to our Manchester headquarters, and from there via anywhere in the country or the world indeed.
So you've got to be very careful with engineers because they do tend to speak a different language. What's all this sort of stuff here? It looks like spaghetti.
They're called cords, double-ender cords. And
what are they doing?
They allow us to change facilities just for an hour or so, if you like. and reroute things.
Wow, it's all sophisticated stuff. Do you know how every bit of this works?
More or less, yes.
More or less. If you come and have a look down here, you'll see that we are actually still broadcasting, because these are the two bits of equipment which actually process the signal before it goes off to the transmitters. As you can see, they're flicking away. Andy Peoples is still on the air, thank goodness. And it's not just one transmitter, is there, Bernard? There's 3.
5.
5?
5 transmitting stations.
We're very greedy.
2 MF and 3 FM.
And is that because we need to get it all over the county?
That's the reason, yes. It's such a big county.
So we need 5.
We need 5, yes.
Come on. It's enough technical stuff. We're going to pop through into the studio, which is doing the production work for Andy's programme. Thanks, Bernard.
3.
Right, now this is Studio 2, and this is where the on-air programme is going on at the moment. Through the glass, Andy Peoples is doing his programme as we speak. And as you can see, this is the area on the outside, the sort of the technical backup to the programme. Paul Baldwin, one of the senior producers I was talking about earlier on the whiteboard, is in charge of his own array of equipment there. We've got a couple of computers in here. We've got another computer which is working as visual talkback to Andy, so we don't need to talk to him in his headphones and put him off. We can actually say what's coming up next on a screen in front of it. An array of other little tape recorders. Let's just interrupt Paul a second. Paul, what's coming next?
Well, we're talking to John Gwynn at the moment, our cricket correspondent. He's from Old Trafford on our line there. And then we should have a tune and then a wine guide.
So, where do all these ideas come from then?
Well, basically, as you know, we've got a couple of researchers upstairs. We all sort of pitch in and see what the people of Lancashire are talking about. We may pick something out of a newspaper, maybe something comes over somebody's head. But it all comes together in our running order here. Today we've had quite a diverse programme really: maternity pay, personal loans, working mums and new age men, why the people of Lancashire should be learning Japanese and Russian. And coming up in a moment, it's the Green Party conference begins today, so we're looking at what they're going to be talking about in the conference.
Right, OK. Now, we do travel news every hour, don't we? So we're coming up to that in just a second. We're just finishing off this last interview that he's doing. How does Andy know all about the research? Does he do his own research?
Yeah, he does do some of his own research, but largely in terms of cues and things, all these things, our researchers write them and put them together. It's really the basis of what Andy uses the interview for. He may stick to it rigidly, he may go off at a tangent. It really depends what people's answers are to the question.
Right. Now, I can feel in my water that Andy is going to go to the travel bulletin at the end of this answer. So follow me through, and I reckon we should be able to just sneak into the studio. There's something about radio, not allowed to talk when the red light's on, so we'll wait until the red light goes on. Convenient thing is that here we have the red light. So he's into the travel news, let's go through.
No major problems before. However, there are some roadworks going on the A6, A3, that's Main Street in Melling. The road's being closed in both directions for some roadworks. It is affecting traffic going between Kirkby Lonsdale and Lancaster.
It's party political conference time. The Prime Minister and the Conservative Party will be in Blackpool in a matter of weeks. Television, of course, looks as though it's been taken over by all those men in various colours of suits. All of the major political parties will have their turn over the coming weeks, but it's the Green Party who get the ball rolling as they take to the various podiums in a hotel in Hastings. The Green Party conference. And on the telephone line, David Wild joins us now. David, good afternoon to you. What's on your agenda for the Green Party for the next 4 days?
The main focus of this conference is going to be preparing for the European elections next June. We have a set of guiding principles which has been agreed by every Green Party in Europe. I think uniquely amongst the parties. There is a Green Party in every country in Europe, and that includes some of the new states in the east. And we've agreed a set of principles which will form the basis for a common platform.
Andy Peoples in the morning show. So there we are. That's Radio Lancashire. 40 people working flat out to bring you news, information, conversation, basically good company. BBC Radio Lancashire, keeping it going 365 days a year. It's quite a responsibility, you know, because I know that tomorrow morning 250,000 Lancastrians are going to be tuning in, wanting to be entertained and informed, which means the work never stops. So I'm going back to work. Because whether or not it's happening in Burnley, or perhaps it's down on the file that something's happening, we've got to be there to cover it. way we like to sort of talk about is right across the county, Radio Lancashire. Thanks for listening. I'll get back to work.
Great to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
The leader of Lancashire County Council, Louise Elman, joining us from our County Hall studio. Now, our telephone lines are open, 0254 583 583. Love to hear from you on what you feel about all this. Michael Lynch is on the telephone line. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Andy.
What are your feelings? Are you very sad?
Yes. I'm not a great sports fan, but at the same time, I think that it was...